Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Robert's review, if that's what you can call it. 3,000 mile review of Honda NC700X. And of course, in true British style, almost as soon as I press the record button on the camera, it starts raining. You'll have to excuse the noise of the cars. The road is just over there. So, that's about the best I can do. Especially it's stopped raining now. So, where do we start? I bought this bike because I'd recently taken a full-time job and my car is a bit expensive to run, even on motorway journeys. And I needed something that was going to give me better miles to the gallon. I passed my motorcycle test many years ago when I was a teenager, maybe a bit later, probably early 20s. And I've ridden bikes on and off since then. It's been about 10 years since I've actually owned a bike. The bike originally cost, I think it was $3,800. I couldn't get enough money together to buy it in one lump sum, so I had to ticket it. And I think the cost all told with the credit included is about $5,000 altogether. But as luck would have it, I've only been paying it for 4 months, and I've recently come into some inheritance, which is enough to pay the bike off altogether. Out of the shop, it had quite a few extras on it already. The secondary aftermarket exhaust pipe, the hugger, engine bars, and a Puig touring screen. When I first got it, this Puig screen was actually about 2.5 inches taller than it is now. But what I was suffering from was major buffeting. I'm 6'3". When I'm sitting on the bike, my head is up, quite high, up here somewhere. And it seemed that the ears on the screen were causing so much buffeting that I was getting double vision. It was literally like driving down the road like that when you got to about 80 miles an hour. So all I did was just cut a couple of inches off the screen, and that solved the problem. You get a bit more pressure on your chest from the wind, but your head's in relatively clean air, so the buffering problem was then done with. Oh yes, of course, and an electronic Scott oiler. It's got a nifty little panel up on the handlebars. So that's what it had when I rode it away from the shop. Obviously, I didn't have any motorcycling gear because I hadn't been motorcycling for such a long time. Sold it all. My crash helmet was not in a really healthy state, so I had to buy a full get-up as well. Jacket was 130. Boots were 150. Trousers were about 70 or 80. Crash helmet was another 110 or something like that. So it's starter gear basically. So as it stands, the journey I was making to work, I don't work there anymore, I quit. Wasn't a particularly nice place to work, and it didn't pay very well either. The journey to work was a 60 mile a day round trip. My car, the Vectra, was doing probably 28 to the gallon. So it's a gallon of fuel to get to work, a gallon of fuel to get home. And it's between £15 and £20 a day. This bike needed refilling once a week, and it holds 2.5 gallons, I believe. The Vectra was doing about 28 to the gallon on that journey every day. This bike was doing about 68 to the gallon on a daily basis. So, as you can see by that rationale, the bike pretty much pays for itself over the course of about a year and a half. It had just over 10,000 miles on it when I got it. I've ridden it like a 60 mile round trip every day for about 2.5 months, and it's now got about 13,000 miles on it, so I've put about 3,000 miles on this bike. I'm not going to go into all the details of what the bike got on it, what it does, what horsepower it is. I'll give you a quick brief run over. It's got combined ABS. When you put the front brake on, back brake goes on a little bit. When you put the back brake on, the front brake goes on a little bit. I personally can't really notice it because I'm generally doing equal braking on both, or the 60-40, 70-30 split or whatever. As you can see from the engine, it's a flat twin. I don't know what angle that is. Apparently it's time to try and make it feel like a V-twin, but it doesn't feel anything like a V-twin. It's a bit of a rattly sounding engine, but it seems to be alright. It has a huge storage space, if I can get the key out. There we go. It has bad locks as well. It has a huge storage space where the petrol tank is supposed to be. And the petrol tank is back here and basically runs down underneath the chassis down to about here. So if you ride it over, an extended period of time, an extended distance, if you ride it all day, you generally end up having to fill it up at least once a day. One thing this isn't is a racing bike. It's not fast by a long shot. It cruises at motorway speed, 70-80 mile an hour without too much trouble. But I really don't think you'll get much more than 100 mile an hour out of it on a flat. Not that I'd want to. I mean, it feels a world better than my rusty old car, but it's not really designed for going fast. It's only got a single front disc and a single rear disc, so it doesn't stop particularly quickly. At 238 kilograms, or thereabouts, I don't know if that's dry or wet weight, it's quite a heavy bike for its slightly wimpy 50 odd horsepower, and I really struggle to keep it up straight at speeds below 5 miles an hour. I really struggle with slow speed manoeuvring, so I end up sort of hovering my legs down while I'm moving. As it stands at the minute, I've added one extra, which is obviously a mobile phone holder. Over this weekend I intend to strip it right down and put a power point into the front storage compartment so that I can draw 12 volts to charge USB gadgets and anything that can charge on 12 volts. I've got 12 volt chargers for my laptop and all sorts, so that'll be a task in itself. Like most modern bikes, there's more bodywork than there is anything else on this. All of that space around the back where the Honda badges are is just empty. There's nothing there. And if I know my tastes, I might end up just not putting it all back on and going with what I need to. I prefer a motorcycle to be a motorcycle, but like I say, this is incredibly cheap to run. You don't need to worry about getting on it and going out for a ride. It only takes at the minute about 13 to 14 quid's worth of petrol when you fill it up, and that's premium petrol, not just the normal petrol. That's actually Shell Extra or whatever they call it. I don't use supermarket petrol in any of my vehicles because it's shit. This one came with a centre stand. I think that's an optional extra. I'm not entirely sure. Out of the factory. Maybe someone can clarify that for me. Short and sweet. But I think that's just about all I've got to say about the Honda NC700X. Well, this particular one anyway. I think I got a relatively good deal. It was a shame I couldn't get enough money together to buy it outright. So I've paid a bit of interest, and I'll probably end up having to pay a bit more when I get around to paying it off in the first week in the new year. But I enjoy riding the bike. Hopefully later on in the year I can get some more money together and maybe upgrade to a sports bike. Thanks for taking the time to watch. See you in the next video.